Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on the Flash season. Actually, it's not another video on the Flash season 8. It's potentially a video on the Flash season 9, but also just, potentially the larger Arrowverse as a whole. So, at least going back to the Flash, we have the Flash back this week after it took a week off, but we have no more breaks for the rest of the season, so we'll have the final 4 episodes airing back to back. As I said, starting this week with episode 17. Now, episode 18 is meant to be the, quote unquote official start to the next storyline or graphic novel, though this week's episode will be somewhat relevant in parts to it based off the trailer at least. But of course, the last storyline we have had that, wrapped up back in episode 13, I think it was the Deathstorm arc. And in that arc, they, look to conclusively wrap up that character, but of course, the introduction of this formal iteration of Deathstorm did bring about questions of a certain storyline from the comics associated with that iteration of the character. So recently, Eric Wallace, the showrunner for The Flash, we should all know his name by now, did an interview with comicbook.com and was asked if that was it. That was all we're going to see in regards to this side of the world that, that Deathstorm's role could have led into. And this is what Eric Wallace had to say. Who says that story is over? All I can say to you is there are many more Flash and Arrowverse stories to be told. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I actually wrote a Blackest Night story. I wrote Power of Suzanne number 48. That's where the Black Lantern Osiris comes back and all that good stuff. There's a reason I'm talking about Blackest Night. I'm trying to will it into existence. Now, I don't know if I'll be able to because that would require a full-on crossover and many more millions of dollars than our show has. However, you got to start somewhere. And remember, I'm a fan first. I love Blackest Night. So to me, hopefully, I've opened a door that eventually we'll get to walk through. I know we have a 9th season and there's kind of a plan in place, but we may still have to be in COVID protocols, which means no crossovers, which means we couldn't do a story as big as Blackest Night. But I could certainly plant the seeds and try to will it into existence because I want to see it too. I consider Blackest Night, the comic book storyline, to be, in my opinion, a horror comic book storyline done with superheroes. And to me, that's my sweet spot. That's perfect, and I knew this was going to be a season of horror, a season of more horror, because I want to put Team Flash through kind of the ultimate ringer, and I felt like horror was the best way to do that. So the big question, is Blackest Night possible? Yes, but only if you do it without the Green Lantern side, in my opinion. Eric Wallace, of course, references in that little excerpt we put in there about it, costing millions of dollars or more millions of dollars than the show would have. But that's really if you go overly cosmic and involve the Green Lantern and just all the other rings and stuff like that. Which, of course, makes it quite different from the comic storyline, but I personally don't mind that for the most part. But you can still take the basic concept of dead characters from the universe in question coming back to life in order to do someone else's bidding. Now, the figure in the comics behind the events of Blackest Night is Nekron, otherwise known as the Lord of the Unliving. What a title to have, with his attachment to the universe being similar to what we saw with Deathstorm and where he was originally from in the universe, all that cosmic stuff we saw. So they easily could tie it back to what happened earlier this season and what they witnessed and just generally where they found the Deathstorm was from. Now, Nekron's goal in the comics was to pretty much eliminate life itself, like its embodiment, which connected to the White Lanterns. Now, of course, you have to change that again probably with this thing, but that's just the general outline. And of course, Nekron goes about achieving this goal by bringing people back from the dead, and in particular, he brought back people from the dead that would cause emotional responses, especially to our heroes. So in the comics at the time, dead Batman is brought back to life, who goes and kills, as well as resurrecting, a bunch of characters, including Green Arrow, Kid Flash, Superman. There was a bunch more, like among others, to strengthen Nekron's forces. But if we were to see a take on the Blackest Night storyline, how could they do it? Well, I would still use Nekron, but just add some like Arrowverse flavor to him like we've seen with a character, well, many characters in the past, but even recently like a character like Despero. And I, of course, wouldn't use the Black Lantern rings or anything like that just due to the larger connection to the whole Green Lantern Corps side of things and all the different things connected to that. But I would just have Nekron target a dead character in the Arrowverse that does have an emotional, connection to a lot of people and will be able to maybe lure some people in before they realize what they are. Whether that's just regular people, not just our heroes or, just our heroes and everything like that. And that is, of course, Green Arrow, Oliver Queen. Now, I would just have it that like Nekron just gives this revived Oliver Queen the ability to revive people after killing them or just turn them into zombified beings like he is in general. So Nekron doesn't have to constantly be there. It can just be Oliver Queen doing all of this. Now, I wouldn't go full zombie with the look, whether it is just Oliver Queen or anyone that he changes. Just make them look a bit grayish in appearance or something like that, or, through a little bit of makeup. You still want them to look like the characters that we've known and seen for the most part, in the past. Almost make them look possessed, if anything. That's probably the best way to make them look. Like maybe some bit of gray, bit of like, some raccoon eyes going on or something like that. Some like eyeshadow, what do you call them? Like some makeup that makes them look a bit dead. But not like dead, just a bit dead. Now, the issue would be killing off these characters, because what happens when they defeat Necron? Well, I would have it that everything that Necron did or was involved in is reversed. So the people Zombie Oliver kills and revives just go back to being alive again because everything's reversed. So they wouldn't have been changed by Oliver. But then, of course, Oliver would just have to go back to being dead, like he was, just a dead thing. Now, of course, there is the whole thing with him being Spectre, but his dead body would still be a thing in the physical world. But of course, if like that knowledge comes up to like the group that like there's no chance to save Oliver in regards to bring him back to life, it might cause a bit of an emotional thing. But of course, it's bringing all these other people that Oliver has changed back to normal, and Oliver can just go back to, being at ease, going to rest. Now, what would Necron necessarily be aiming to do? Well, it'll just be something similar to the comics, just to make himself the master of death without anyone or anything being able to thwart his control on that. It doesn't have to be overly complex, just be villainous enough and evil enough to be an issue, where our heroes would have to be like, okay, we have to act on this now, but it would also be scary because of all the zombie stuff going on. But of course, we have one zombie potentially in the form of this zombified or revived Green Arrow, but who would he kill and then revive potentially to be on his team? Now, here are my main choices. I'm going to give just some cool reasons as to why I specifically chose this bunch of people, but also let me know your comments or let me know your options in the comments for who you would want to see potentially, if there's anyone else that I did not list. There's many options. I don't list too many here, so I'm sure most of you would have at least one other person you'd like to put in here. And it's important to remember, they don't have to be dead. They don't have to be dead. Oliver they can be dead if you want. It can be a dead person that's in the Arrowverse somewhere if you want, but they don't have to be. Oliver can just change them if he wants to. So it can be anyone if you want them to be in here. So I'm going to give options for both this zombie team, if you want to call it, and also what the heroes I would have to team up against, or at least the main heroes, but we're going to go over the zombie versions first. So I've only listed 6 here, but these are the 6 I would like to see the most. Now, the first one I actually have is Constantine. I'd like to see a zombified Constantine just to have some like zombie magic. Just some zombie magic would be cool, just to see what it would look like. Would it look a bit different? Would the spells he do be a bit different, at least in regards to what he's trying to achieve? He might even go darker with the magic as well. So I think that'd be pretty cool. Kid Flash. I mean, I think you're going to have Kid Flash. I think you need a zombified speedster just because, I mean, spoiler alert, but we're going to have the Flash on the hero side. So of course you're going to have I was going to put Zoom, and then I thought it might be interesting to see like an evil, like a zombified Kid Flash go up against Barry. So I put this Kid Flash in here, and I think it'd be just cool to see him and see if his suit would change as well, if that was going to, happen. The next one I put here was actually a bit twisted, and I was imagining what this dude could do if it was a zombified sort of evil version, and it could be either version, but I put the Ray Palmer version of the Atom. I could have put, the Ryan Choi, but I thought, let's do Ray Palmer and have him go a bit crazy. And just imagine the damage that like just an evil person could do, or just a person with bad intentions could do with this suit. Just imagine what the powers that this suit can do. Shrink in, go in someone, you just give them an aneurysm. You could do anything. You could mess them up completely. It would be insane. Now, obviously, it's going to get to the point where we think, is that just overpowered as hell? And the answer is, yeah, it is overpowered as hell. And I wouldn't want to be on the end of that. The next option I have is actually Deathstroke, and my main reason for that is just to have him go back to being like the crazy Arrow Season 2 Slade Wilson that we saw. Like, that would just be cool. That was like literally my main reason for putting him in there, and I'm going to stick with it. My second last option in regards to the main ones is actually Tobias Whale from Black Lightning, and that's just because this dude is a unit. He's massive. So just imagine like a massive zombie dude. It'd be hard to take down. It'd be like a tank from Left 4 Dead. Is that a Boomer reference? It might be. And if anyone played Left 4 Dead, like, remember the big tank dudes? Like, how annoying they were? That'd be Tobias Whale. So that would be one of my options. And my last option, no specific reason, is Captain Cold, because why not? Why not? Let's just go Captain Cold. Why not? And in regards to my main heroes that will be fighting against this, obviously you'd have some supporting heroes, but these are just the main ones you'd have. And this is just the Justice League of the Arrowverse. Pretty simple, excluding one person, which we'll mention. Now, So this would be the Flash, Superman, Black Lightning, Supergirl, White Canary or Sarah Lance, and Martian Manhunter. Pretty easy. You have 6 villains or 6 zombified people, like I mentioned before, and then 6 heroes. But you might be wondering, what about Batwoman? Well, the issue with Batwoman is that still in this like timeline we're in, this Batwoman hasn't met the group. So if anything, Batwoman could be on either side, in my opinion. She could be a zombified version, or she could be someone that joins the heroes as well, or she might not even take part. I'm not too sure, but with Batwoman, I wasn't really sure where I'd put her if I had to put one. So she could go on either side, in my opinion, as I said before. Now, this is one of those crossovers where I think it's more fun over story because I think the concept is pretty simple once you take out all the different like Green Lantern elements, like just a dude who's just looking to do something and he's using zombified versions of characters that we've had to do this bidding. Like it's not overly complex, and I think it's more just for have some fun and have as many familiar faces on screen as possible, and I'm all for that. You know, I'd love to see something like this. Now, I guess the big question would be, how would you go about doing this? Now, Eric Wallace has talked about it, almost like insinuating like, oh, you could do it as either a crossover or you could do it similar to something on Armageddon. But Armageddon was a very Flash-centric story, so I don't know if it'd be aiming to do it a crossover thing. And even if that's the case, you really only got 2 shows you could do it on, which is The Flash and Superman and Lois. So how do you go about it in that way? So I'd like to think you could do like an event thing similar to what Armageddon did, just do 5 episodes at the beginning of the season. But once again, if Flash Season 9 is the final season of The Flash, I don't know if Eric Wallace would want to, you know, I don't want to say this is like the right term, you know, people would say maybe waste time in a final season doing this story. I wouldn't really mind too much as long as it's not at the end. Like if it's at the beginning, then I'd eat this stuff up all day. If it's at the end, it'd be a bit different. You want more Flash personal stuff. But if this is at the beginning of the season, I would 100% want this. But yeah, guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show your support. Let me know in the comment section down below your various opinions about everything in this video. Would you like to see something like a take on the Blackest Night storyline from the comics on the Flash or in the shows in general? And, you know, as I said, which characters would you want to be like zombified, and which ones would you want, you know, being on the alive, if you want to call it, and heroic side? Let me know all that in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later. Goodbye.